As a classroom teacher, I find collaborative planning very beneficial. It helps drive my guided reading instruction. It allows me to document my students' progress in a small amount of time. It allows me to work with my teammates and gain new ideas and perspectives that I can use in my classroom to help each child be successful.
In first grade, I feel is beneficial for the teacher since there isn't any real testing that they come from kindergarten with as far as what standards are weak. So we go ahead and target those standards in first grade in CP. It's just a planned opportunity for you to sit down with your team and plan around a standard. You kind of get to be creative since so much of the curriculum is scripted these days. You kind of get to be creative with what you pull and creating the pre and the post assessments, and you walk away from the meeting with all the materials you're going to need to teach those different strategies groups, who's teaching which group, and what you're going to do to assess them in the end to find out how much progress they've made toward mastering that standard. It's nice to find the weaknesses that they have when they go to second grade and use that in first grade and use all of that data to make a plan for them to get a little bit closer to mastering the standard before they go on to second grade. So I think CP is a good planned opportunity where you just have that hour to sit down with your team, collaborate, make sure everybody's on the same page and working towards the same goal. And that's
So one of the best things about CP is that it helps norm things, norms the standards, norms the assignment, norms the expectations for a grade level. A grade level can sit together, they reflect on data, plan appropriate activities that then enrich, reteach, and extend the standards, and everybody is expecting the same result, same grade. It's also just a chance to be analytical and then also reflective, and I think reflective teaching is successful teaching. It makes you a better teacher.
Okay, so in third grade for strategy groups, we focus once a month on math strategy groups and then once a month on either reading or language standards. This year for math strategy groups, we've used either benchmarks or pre-assessments that have been given through the county, and we analyze that data and determine our levels of student need. So we have those advanced learners, the on learners, and then those approaching learners based on a specific standard. So earlier in the year, we focused on 3-digit addition and subtraction, and we broke those kids up into 3 different groups, and one teacher taught the advanced learners that did really well on that pre-assessment. One teacher did a strategy group with the kids that did okay, and then we had another teacher who was working with the kids that really just didn't hit the mark with that standard. And so that teacher remediated and went back over those skills. The teacher who worked with the advanced kids extended them and looked at some of those DI options that could help enrich those learners. And then after we do our strategy group, we often go back and give a post-assessment to compare the results of the students to the pre-assessment and the post-assessment. For reading, we've really been focusing on the standard number 1. So we're looking for those details directly from the text, and we use that in the different genres throughout each marking period. And we pick groups based on the learning tasks that they're given at the beginning of the marking period, do a couple of strategy groups throughout the marking period, and then use the benchmark as post. And then we go back in collaborative planning to analyze our data and see if the students have made any growth. I know in math specifically, we went later in the year and redid a strategy groups on subtracting because they still struggled with it when they hit it on the benchmark, and we wanted to do another strategy group before we hit park. Okay, so some of the difficulties are trying to find the resources that you need to, especially for extending your learning, because if we've used them within the classroom already in our main lessons, then trying to find things that might enrich a little further or help them if they're not getting it with what we already have. Trying to find those resources can be difficult. Also, working with students you may not normally work with, you don't know their abilities, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, that can be a struggle as well. But some of the positives are that some of these kids that may be in the average math classes or maybe on lower levels in reading, if they excelled at this one standard, they're getting that chance to be with kids that are like-minded in them, and they're getting that enrichment that they may not always get.